Well, I've been called a lot of things over the years: frugal, cheap, out of touch, old fashioned. And you know what? I don't really mind any of those labels because I've also been called something else, one of the richest people in the world. And I think there's a connection there, a pretty direct connection, actually. See, I've never looked rich, never acted rich, never lived like most people think rich people should live. I drive old cars. I live in the same house I bought in 1958 for $31,500. I eat at McDonald's for breakfast. I wear cheap suits. To most people looking at me, I probably look, well, ordinary, maybe even broke, and that's exactly how I like it. Today, I want to talk about something that most people completely misunderstand, something I call stealth wealth, the art of being rich while looking broke, and more importantly, why acting broke is actually one of the fastest ways to become rich. This is going to challenge everything you think you know about wealth, everything society tells you about success, everything your friends and family might expect from you. But if you can embrace this concept, if you can really internalize what I'm about to share with you, it will change your financial life forever. So let me start with a question. Why do most people want to be rich? Think about it for a moment. Really think about it. For most people, it's not actually about the money, it's about what the money represents: status, respect, admiration, proof that they've made it. They want to be rich so they can show people they're rich. The big house, the luxury car, the designer clothes, the exotic vacations. They want everyone to know they've succeeded. And that right there, that's why most people never actually become rich, because they're spending all their money trying to look rich instead of actually being rich. Let me tell you something I learned a long time ago. Real wealth is invisible. You can't see it. You can't show it off. It's numbers in an investment account. It's ownership in businesses. It's assets that quietly compound year after year. The stuff you can see, the cars, the houses, the clothes, that's not wealth. That's the opposite of wealth. That's spending. That's consumption. That's money leaving your pocket, never to return. So here's the first stealth wealth hack, the foundation of everything else. Train yourself to value being rich over looking rich. This sounds simple, but it's incredibly hard for most people. Because we're social creatures. We care what others think. We want respect and admiration. And society has trained us to believe those things come from visible displays of wealth. But here's what I've learned. The respect and admiration from looking rich, it's shallow, it's temporary, it's from people who don't really matter. The respect that comes from actually being rich, from having real wealth, real security, real freedom, that's different. That's respect from people who understand what matters. That's respect that lasts. When I was young, I could have bought fancy cars. I was making good money. But I chose not to. I drove modest cars. And you know what? Some people looked down on me. They thought I was cheap or unsuccessful. But I didn't care, because I knew something they didn't. Every dollar I didn't spend on impressing them was a dollar that was compounding in my investment account. Every year I drove an older car was another year my wealth grew. And decades later, where are those people now? Most of them are still working, still struggling, still trying to keep up appearances. And I'm financially free. I have more wealth than I could ever spend. I can do whatever I want. So who made the better choice? The person who looked successful or the person who became successful? That's the first hack. value being rich over looking rich. And everything else flows from that fundamental shift in mindset. Now, let me talk about the second hack. And this one's practical and powerful. Drive a car that's at least 5 years old and buy it with cash. Cars are one of the biggest wealth destroyers there is. Not because you need a car, most people do need transportation, but because of how people buy cars. They finance new cars, luxury cars, cars they can't afford. And they justify it by saying, I work hard, I deserve a nice car. Or, a car is important for my image. But here's the math. Let's say you buy a $40,000 new car with a 5-year loan at 5% interest. Your monthly payment is about $750. Over 5 years, you'll pay about $45,000 total. And at the end, your car is worth maybe $20,000. So you've spent $45,000 to own something worth $20,000. You've lost $25,000. Now let's say you take a different approach. You buy a 5-year-old version of that same car for $20,000. You pay cash. And you invest the $750 you would have been spending on car payments. Over 5 years at 10% returns, that $750 a month becomes about $57,000. So you've gained $57,000 instead of losing $25,000. That's an $82,000 difference. $82,000 from one decision, one choice to act broke instead of acting rich. And that compounds over your lifetime into millions of dollars. I've never owned a new car. Never. I've always bought used, reliable cars and driven them until they couldn't be driven anymore. And people have made fun of me for it. But you know what? Those people are broke, and I'm not. So that's hack number 2. Drive an old car, buy it with cash, and invest the difference. This one decision alone can make you rich over time. The third stealth wealth hack, and this is a big one. Live in a house that costs less than you can afford, preferably much less. Housing is the biggest expense for most people. The mortgage, the property taxes, the maintenance, the utilities, it all adds up. And most people stretch themselves to buy the biggest house they can possibly afford. They think a big house is a sign of success, that it shows they've made it. But all it really shows is that they're house poor. They have a nice place to live, but they have no money for anything else, especially not for investing. I bought my house in 1958, paid cash. Well, I took a small mortgage, but I paid it off quickly. And it cost $31,500. Now, I could afford more even back then, but I didn't need more. The house was comfortable, it was in a good neighborhood, it had enough space for my family. Why would I spend more? Why would I tie up more of my capital in a house that doesn't produce income? Because that's the thing about houses. Unless you're renting it out, your house doesn't make you money. It costs you money every month for decades. So the bigger and more expensive your house, the less money you have available to invest in assets that do make money. Here's what I recommend. Buy a house that costs no more than 2.5 times your annual income, ideally less. Put 20% down to avoid PMI. Get a 15-year mortgage, not a 30-year one. And here's the key. Don't upgrade just because you get a raise. Stay in that modest house. Keep that manageable mortgage. And invest all the money you're saving by not living in a McMansion. Let me give you some numbers. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. Most people in that income range buy a $400,000 house. Big mortgage, high payments. But if you buy a $200,000 house instead, your payment might be $1,500 a month instead of $3,000. That's $1,500 a month you can invest. Over 30 years, at 10% returns, that's about $3 million. $3 million from choosing a modest house instead of an impressive one. That's the difference between retiring wealthy and retiring broke. Between having freedom and staying trapped in the rat race, all because of where you chose to live. So that's hack number 3. Live in a house that's smaller and cheaper than you can afford. Invest the difference. The 4th hack, and this one's simple, but most people won't do it. Pack your lunch instead of eating out. Now, I know what you're thinking. Warren, really? We're talking about packing lunch? That's your advice? But hear me out, because this is about more than just lunch. Let's say you spend $15 a day eating out for lunch. That's typical in most cities. Over a year, that's about $3,750. Doesn't sound like that much, right? But if you packed lunch instead, let's say it costs you $3 in groceries, you're spending about $750 a year. You're saving $3,000 a year. Now invest that $3,000 a year. Over 40 years of your working life, at 10% returns, that's about $1.3 million. $1.3 million. From packing lunch, from looking cheap, from doing what your coworkers probably make fun of. I eat at McDonald's for breakfast most mornings, have for years. I get a sausage McMuffin, maybe some hash browns. Costs a few dollars. And people think it's funny. The billionaire eating at McDonald's. But you know what? That breakfast costs about the same as packing something from home. It's fast, it's consistent, it's cheap. Why would I spend $20 at some fancy place when a few dollars gets me what I need? This principle applies to everything. Coffee. Make it at home instead of spending $6 at Starbucks. Clothes. Buy them on sale or secondhand instead of paying retail. Entertainment. Find free or cheap options instead of expensive ones. Every single one of these small decisions adds up. Individually, they seem insignificant, but collectively, over decades, they're the difference between wealth and poverty. Most people think it's just $5, it doesn't matter. But it does matter, because $5 invested becomes $10, then $20, then $40. Over decades, that $5 becomes thousands. So that's hack number 4. Be cheap about daily expenses. Pack lunch. Make coffee at home. Look broke in the small things. Get rich in the big picture. The 5th stealth wealth hack, and this one requires discipline, never finance anything except a modest house and education. Let me be clear about this. Consumer debt is poison. Credit cards, car loans, personal loans, financing furniture or electronics or vacations. All of it is destroying your wealth faster than you can build it. When you finance something, you're doing two terrible things. First, you're paying interest, which means you're paying more than the item costs. Second, you're removing money from your future that could have been invested. It's a double hit. You're losing on both sides. And the companies lending you money, they're getting rich off your impatience. Wealthy people don't finance consumer goods, ever. If they can't afford to pay cash, they don't buy it. Simple as that. Now, I said there are two exceptions. A modest house is one, because owning a home you can afford with a manageable mortgage often makes sense. The key word being modest and manageable. The other exception is education, but only education that has a clear return on investment, a degree that will increase your earning power significantly, not just any degree. And even then, you want to minimize student debt as much as possible. But everything else? Pay cash or don't buy it. I've never carried credit card debt in my life, never financed a car, never taken a personal loan. If I wanted something and didn't have cash for it, I waited until I did, or I decided I didn't need it after all. That discipline, that willingness to delay gratification, that's what separates the rich from the broke. Most people want everything now. They can't wait. So they finance it and pay dearly for that impatience. Wealthy people are willing to wait, to save up, to go without temporarily so they can have financial freedom permanently. So that's hack number 5. Never finance consumer goods. Pay cash or don't buy it. This one decision will save you hundreds of thousands in interest over your lifetime. The 6th hack, and this one's about mindset. Dress like you're one level below your position. What do I mean by that? If you're an executive, dress like a manager. If you're a manager, dress like an entry-level employee. Don't dress to impress. Dress to be practical and save money. Now, I'm not saying dress poorly or unprofessionally. I'm saying don't spend a fortune on clothes just to look successful. Buy good quality, but buy it on sale. Buy classic styles that last for years, not trendy items that go out of fashion. I've worn cheap suits my whole life. I'm not a fashion icon. I don't care about designer labels. A suit is a suit. As long as it fits and looks professional, that's good enough. But most people, especially as they climb the career ladder, they feel pressure to dress the part. Expensive suits, designer shoes, luxury watches. They think it's necessary for their career. But here's the truth. If you're good at your job, people will respect you regardless of what you wear. And if you're not good at your job, expensive clothes won't save you. I've done business with people wearing jeans and t-shirts, and I've done business with people wearing $5,000 suits. You know what matters? Their competence, their integrity, their track record, not their wardrobe. So don't fall into the trap of dressing to impress. It's expensive, it's unnecessary, and every dollar you spend on clothes is a dollar not working for your financial freedom. That's hack number 6. Dress one level below your position. Save money. Invest the difference. The 7th hack, and this one's powerful. Associate with people who don't judge you for living below your means. Here's something most people don't realize. Your peer group has an enormous influence on your spending. If you hang around people who spend a lot, who value expensive things, who judge others by their possessions, you're going to feel pressure to keep up. But if you hang around people who value wealth over status, who respect frugality, who understand that looking broke is a path to being rich, then you'll feel supported in your choices. I've always surrounded myself with people who think like me. Charlie Munger was the same way: frugal, practical, focused on real wealth, not appearances. We reinforced each other's values. But I've also known people who had to distance themselves from friends and even family because those relationships were financially toxic. People who would make fun of them for driving old cars, who would pressure them to spend on expensive dinners or trips, who made them feel cheap for being financially responsible. And sometimes you have to make a choice. Keep those relationships and stay broke, or protect your financial future and find better influences. That's not easy. It's one of the hardest parts of building wealth, but it's necessary. Because if the people around you are constantly pulling you toward spending, you'll never build wealth. You'll always be trying to keep up with them. So choose your friends wisely. Spend time with people who support your financial goals, even if those goals seem weird to everyone else. People who won't judge you for packing lunch or driving an old car or living in a modest house. Those people are rare, but they're out there. Find them. Build relationships with them. They'll make your journey to wealth so much easier. That's hack number 7. Surround yourself with people who support stealth wealth, who value being rich over looking rich. The 8th hack, and this is practical, learn to enjoy free or cheap entertainment. Entertainment and leisure are huge budget killers for most people. Concert tickets, sporting events, expensive restaurants, bars and clubs, exotic vacations, it all adds up fast. And people justify it. They say, I work hard, I deserve to enjoy life. I can't just save every penny and never have fun. And that's fair. You should enjoy life. But enjoying life doesn't require spending a fortune. There are thousands of ways to have fun that cost little or nothing. I've never been to an expensive resort, never felt the need. I'm perfectly happy reading a good book. That's my idea of a great evening. A book costs $10 and gives me hours of enjoyment. And the knowledge I gain from it, that's worth infinitely more than any vacation. But there are other options too. Free concerts in parks, hiking, museums on free days, game nights with friends, cooking dinner at home instead of going to restaurants, library books, podcasts, YouTube videos. The happiest people I know aren't the ones spending the most money on entertainment. They're the ones who've learned to find joy in simple, inexpensive things. And financially, this makes a huge difference. If you can keep your entertainment budget to a few $100s a month instead of a few thousand, that's money you can invest. Money that compounds. Money that builds your freedom. Over a lifetime, the difference between someone who spends $2,000 a month on entertainment and someone who spends $200 is enormous. We're talking millions of dollars in investment growth. So that's hack number 8. Find cheap ways to enjoy life. Don't sacrifice happiness, but don't waste money either. The 9th hack, and this one's subtle but important. Maintain the same lifestyle even as your income grows. This is hard. really hard. Because as you earn more, you'll feel entitled to spend more. You'll think, I'm making 6 figures now. I can afford a nicer place, a better car, nicer things. But that's the trap. That's lifestyle inflation. And it's what keeps most high earners broke despite their high incomes. Wealthy people do the opposite. They keep their expenses stable even as their income grows. So the gap between earning and spending gets bigger and bigger. And that gap, that's what becomes wealth. When I started making serious money, I didn't change my lifestyle. I kept living in my same house, driving my same car, eating at the same places. Because I didn't need more, I was happy with what I had. And all that extra income, it went into investments, into building Berkshire, into compounding my wealth year after year. Most people can't do this. They get a raise and immediately their spending increases to match. New car, bigger apartment, more expensive restaurants, and they're back to living paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher level. So here's what you do. When you get a raise, pretend you didn't. Keep living exactly like you were. Take that entire raise and invest it immediately. Set up automatic transfers so you never even see the money. Do this with every raise, every bonus, every increase in income. Never let your spending rise. Keep it locked at whatever level you're currently comfortable with. Over 10, 20, 30 years, you'll be amazed at the wealth you build, because all of your income growth went to investments, not to lifestyle. That's hack number 9. Freeze your lifestyle. Let your income grow, but keep your spending constant. This is one of the most powerful wealth-building strategies there is. The 10th and final hack, and this one brings it all together, practice gratitude for what you already have. Here's the thing, most people are never satisfied. They always want more, better, newer. They compare themselves to others and feel like they're missing out. They can't enjoy what they have because they're focused on what they don't have. And that mindset, it's expensive. It drives spending. It creates dissatisfaction. It makes it impossible to act broke because you're constantly trying to fill some void with purchases. Wealthy people who practice stealth wealth, they're genuinely content with less. Not because they can't afford more, but because they don't need more. I'm content with my house, my car, my simple routine. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't look at other people's mansions or yachts and feel envy. I'm genuinely happy with what I have. And that contentment, that's what makes stealth wealth possible. Because if you're not content, you can't resist the urge to spend. You can't act broke because you feel broke inside, even if you're not. So practice gratitude. Every day, think about what you have that you're thankful for. Your health, your relationships, your opportunities, the fact that you have enough. When you genuinely appreciate what you have, you stop needing to acquire more. You stop trying to impress people. You stop comparing yourself to others, and that's when acting broke becomes easy. because you're not acting anymore. You're genuinely content with a simple, inexpensive lifestyle. And all the money you're not spending, it's building real wealth. That's hack number 10. Practice gratitude. Be content with less. This is the foundation of stealth wealth. You know, I've given you 10 hacks today, 10 ways that acting broke can make you rich. But they all really boil down to one core principle: value financial freedom over social approval. That's what stealth wealth is really about. It's choosing freedom over appearances, choosing long-term security over short-term status, choosing to be rich over looking rich. And most people can't do it. They're too worried about what others think, too concerned with keeping up with their peers, too attached to the idea that success must look a certain way. But the people who can embrace stealth wealth, they're the ones who actually become wealthy because they're not wasting money on appearances, they're investing it, growing it, compounding it year after year. I've lived this way for 94 years, and I can tell you it works. It absolutely works. I'm living proof that you can become one of the wealthiest people in the world while looking completely ordinary. So here's my challenge to you. Try these hacks. Not all at once, maybe. Start with 1 or 2. Drive an older car, live in a smaller house, pack your lunch, dress simply. See how it feels. Notice what happens to your bank account. Watch your investments grow. Experience the freedom that comes from not caring what others think. It won't be easy at first. People will judge you. They'll think you're cheap or unsuccessful. They might even feel uncomfortable around you because your choices challenge their own spending habits. But ignore them, because in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you'll be financially free while they're still working, still stressed about money, still trying to keep up appearances. Stealth wealth isn't about being cheap. It's about being smart. It's about understanding that real wealth is invisible, that the best things in life aren't things at all. And most importantly, it's about having the courage to be different, to act broke when you could act rich, to save when you could spend, to build when you could consume. That courage is rare, but it's rewarded, richly rewarded, with wealth that lasts, with freedom that compounds, with a life lived on your own terms. So act broke, look ordinary, live simply, and get rich quietly. That's the way, that's the path, that's how you build real, lasting wealth in a world obsessed with appearances. Thank you for listening. Now go live below your means and build that stealth wealth. You've got this.